Hello guys, today we are going to review the movie Goodfellas. 1990 is a movie review and talking about its facts, decisions, about its fascinating facts, reviews, and we'll do its analysis. So let's get started. Uh, so basically, Goodfellas, 1990s. Start with its overview and introduction. Goodfellas is widely regarded as one of the greatest films in the gangster genre and a landmark in American cinema, directed by Martin Scorsese. The film vividly chronicles the rise and fall of Henry Hill, a mobster who becomes entangled in the world of organized crime. It's released in 1990s. The film is based on the non-fiction book Wise Guy by Nicholas Pileggi, who co-wrote the screenplay with Scorsese, known for its gritty realism, dynamic storytelling, and unforgettable performances. Goodfellas has left an indelible mark on film history, and if we talk about plot summary, the film narrates the life of Henry Hill, Ray Liotta, a young boy who grows up immersed in the mafia life in New York City from his early days, hanging around the local mobster to his rise as a trusted member of the Lucy's crime family and a witness and participates in a world of violence, crime, and corruption. As Henry's criminal activities escalate, so do the dangerous and moral dilemmas his lifestyle lead to a lavish party, richest and respected within the mafia, but ultimately it results in betrayal, legal trouble, and his decision to cooperate with law enforcement. The narrative is told through Henry's perspective, blending narration, intense action sequence, and character-driven drama. The film culminates in Henry's decision to turn state's witness, leading to the downfall of many of his associates, including the infamous mafia boss Paul Savino. And we do its full movie review, cinematic style, and direction. Martin Scorsese's signature style is vividly evident, combining kinetic camera work, freezes frame, voice over narrations, and realistic portrayal of violence and glamour. The film's pacing is tight, balancing moments of intense action with quite reflective scenes. And if we talk about visual techniques, use of freeze frames to emphasize key movements, quick cuts, and dynamic camera movements to reflect the chaos and energy of mob life. The soundtrack features appropriate rock and pop song that high-ends the film's atmosphere. And if we talk about themes and messages, then let's talk about this. And before talking about it, we have to take some little time. We have to do something important. Then let's talk about. Uh, Uh, the allure of crime, the film explores why individuals are drawn into organized crime, wealth, power, respect, and camaraderie. Moral ambiguity characters are neither purely good nor evil, but complex, flawed individual corruption. If you talk about corruption and betrayal, the film illustrates how trust is fragile in the mafia world and how greed and betrayal are ultimately destructive. The American dream and its dark side, the pursuit of wealth and status through crime contracts with the violence and instability it brings. Performances Liotta charismatic plot for the protagonist. Lear's performance captures Henry's charm and moral decay. Talk about Robert De Niro, a commanding presence embodying the cold, calculated crime boss. Joey Pesci, a tour de force Pesci portrayal of the volatility, unpredictable gangster earned him an Oscar. Talk about Lauren Bracco, provides a grounded perspective. As Henry by showcasing the personal toll of a life of crime. Also, in the authority, Murphy was a paternal yet ruthless figure. Talk about critical reception and legacy. Critical acclaim. The film was lauded for its direction, screenplay, and performance, especially Pesky's award won won Oscar for Joey Pesci Best Supporting Actor and received multiple nominations including Best Picture and Best Direct- Director. Cultural impact frequently cited in the top film list and considered a quintessential gangster film. Its depiction of mob life has influenced countless movies and TV series. We talk about major facts and trivia about Goodfellas. We talk about based on true events. The film is adapted from Nicholas Flaky non-fiction book by Sky, which detail the real-life exploits of Henry Hill and his associates. We talk about real mobsters as consultants. Several of the film's characters scene features input from actual mobster lending authenticity. Legendary scene with the rescued funny guy scene where Pesky's Tommy DeVito intimidates Henry and others at a restaurant is considered one of the most iconic in film's history. Oscar win for Choi Pesky. He won Best Supporting Actor for his portrayal of Tommy DeVito. Cameos and notable appearances. Henry Hill himself appears briefly in the film as a taxi driver. Robert De Niro was reportedly considered for the role of Henry Hill but ultimately played Jimmy Conway. Filming locations shot mainly in New York City, with some scenes in New Jersey. Soundtrack features period appropriate hits like Rags to Riches, Lila and Jimmy Shelter, which contribute to the film's energetic tone. And if we talk about controversies, the film's depiction of violence and real life figures has sparked debate over its accuracy and moral implications. If we talk about influence on moral implication, if we talk influence on pop culture, phrase like funny how scenes like the copper shot have entered popular lexicon. If we talk about impact on crime genre, considered a blueprint for realistic and unglamorous portrayals of organized crime. We talk about themes and moral perspective. The film doesn't shy away from showing the brutal corrupt side of the mafia, emphasizing that crime comes with a heavy price and illustrated the seductive nature of power and wealth, but warns of the inevitable downfall that follows greed and betrayal. The narrative suggests moral lesson crime may promise quick riches, but it ultimately results in destruction and loneliness. We talk about legacy and cultural significance. Goodfellas is often ranked among the greatest hits in cinema history, frequently appearing on best film of all time lists. It redefined the gangster genre, inspiring a new wave of gritty, realistic mob movies. The film's influence extends into TV with series like The Sopranos drawing from its themes and style. And if we talk about legacy and cultural significance, Goodfellas is often ranked among the greatest film in cinema history, frequently appearing on best film of all time lists. It redefined the gangster genre, inspiring a new wave of gritty, realistic mob movies. The film's influence extends into TV with series like The Sopranos drawing from its themes and style. Its cast, scenes, and character continue to be referenced in popular culture. We talk about conclusion. Goodfellas remains a masterful portrayal of organized crime, blending storytelling, direction, and performances into a compelling visual experience. It's an unflinching look at the seductive yet destructive world of the mob continues to captivate audience and critics alike. And if we talk about more, And if we talk about Goodfellas, ultimate exhaustive full movie review and facts compilation. We talk about introduction and context. Goodfellas is a cinematic tour de force that not only redefined the gangster genre but also set new standards for realism, chemistry, and character complexity in films directed by Martin Scorsese, a filmmaker known for his gritty visuals approach to crime dramas. The film is based on the truly life story of Handler Hill, a mobster turned informant. The film, released in 1990s, was met with immediate critical acclaim and has since become a cultural touchstone, influencing countless film, TV series, and even public perception of organized crime. Its nuanced storytelling, combined with unforgettable performances, makes it a must-watch for any serious cinephile. In-depth plot analysis about Act 1 begins and moves earlier. The film opens with Heather Hill as a young boy in Brooklyn, captivated by the glamour and power of the local mafia figures. The early scenes depicting exposure to crime is fascinating, with the mobster lifestyle as palpable, setting up the central themes, the seductive appeal of the gangster life. Henry's early day involves petty thieves and smart hustles, but he quickly becomes enamored with the allure of respect, money, and camaraderie. And if we talk about rise, power, and access, Henry's rise through the ranks is swift. He becomes involved in various criminal activities, robberies, hijacking, drugs, and violence, all depicted with gravity. Realism. Scorsese's direction emphasizes the chaos and unpredictability of my life, often using rapid editing, freeze frames, and voice-over narration by Liotta to immerse the audience into Henry's world. And if we talk about key scenes, include the infamous Copa shot, a long uncut camera movement through the Copacabana nightclub, listing the glamour and allure of the mafia lifestyle. escalating violence, including the brutal murder of a drug dealer, showcasing the ruthlessness that underpins the mob's operation. The camaraderie among gang members portrayed with humor and warmth, underscoring the loyalty and brotherhood that mafia life offers. And if you talk about Act 3 downfall and betrayal, as Henry's lifestyle reaches its zenith, the film shifts from excess leads to addiction and laxness and become increasingly involved in drug which introduce chaos and vulnerability. The film then depicts Henry's spiral into danger, culminating in the infamous funny how scene where Tommy DeVito intimidates Henry with a sickening monologue revealing his the mortality and unpredictable nature of monsters. If we talk about betrayal, law enforcement pressure and internal conflicts force Henry to cooperate with authorities, turning states and witness this decision leads to the downfall of his former associates and the disintegration of his criminal empire. The closing scenes show Henry's life in witness protection, a stark contrast to his former opulence, emphasizing the tragic cost of a life of crime. Character deep dive. And if we talk about Henry Hill, Liotta, complex, charismatic and deeply flawed, Liotta's portrayal captures the conflicted nature of a man torn between loyalty and self-preservation. His narration provides insight into his psyche, revealing a man who enjoys the power but grapples with guilt and fear. The character is both a witness and participant, embodying the allure and danger of mobile mob life. If we talk about Jimmy Conway, Robert De Niro, a calm, calculating and experienced gangster, De Niro's Jamie is the embodiment of full authority. His meticulous approach to crime contrasts with Tommy's volatility. His characters are underscore themes of loyalty, pragmatism, and the consequences of violence. And if we talk about Tommy DeVito, Joe Pesci, The film's most iconic character, Pesky's Tom, is unpredictable, aggressive, and often hilarious but terrifying. The infamous funny how scene exemplifies his volatile temper and dark sense of humor. Pesky's Oscar-winning performance captures the chaos and desert inherent in afterlife. Colonel Larangaco and his wife provides a grounded perspective amid the chaos. Her character explores the personal toll of and his criminal life, fear, frustration, and helplessness. Her interaction highlights the often overlooked human side of mob wives. And if we talk about Polly also known the party figures representing traditional value and the mafia's code of silence. His characters embodies both paternal warmth and ruthless authority. We talk about other notable characters. Billy Wade, Frank Vincent, his murder makes a turning point, showing the brutal consequences of mob dispute. Henry's children represent innocence overshadowed by their father's criminal lifestyle. And we talk about other notable characters. Then it comes with Billy Bats. Frank Vincent, his murder marks a turning point, showing the brutal consequences of mob dispute. And we talk about Henry's children represent innocence overshadowed by their father's criminal lifestyle. The FBI agent portrayed resistant but often ineffective, highlighting the ongoing cat and mouse game, and if we talk about themes and symbolism, the glamour and the greed. The film vividly contrasts the glaze of nightclub scenes and luxury with the brutal violence and moral decay underneath. The Scorsese's use of music, lighting, and camera movement amplifies this dichotomy. And if we talk about themes and symbolism, the glamour and the greed, the film vividly contrasts the glitz of nightclub scenes and luxury with the brutal violence and moral decay underneath. The source code's use of music, lighting, and camera movement amplifies this dichotomy. And if we talk about loyalty and betrayal, the mafia's code emphasizes loyalty, but greed and fear often lead to betrayal. As seen with Henry eventually decision to cooperate with law enforcement. The American dream gone wrong, mobsters chase wealth and respect. But their pursuit often end in tragedy, emphasizing the hollow nature of their ambition. And if we talk about violence as a tool and consequences, from a fist fight to murders, violence is depicted as both a mean to one and an unavoidable outcome, reflecting the brutal reality of organized crime. And if we talk about corruption and morality, the film portrays a world where morality is blurred, characters are neither wholly evil or nor good, but products of their environment and choices. And if we talk about cinematic techniques and style, then if we talk about narration and voiceover, Henry's narrations guides the viewers through his life, providing context, humor, and reflection, creating an intimate connection with the audience. If we talk about camera work, long takes, the uncut cover shot is a masterpiece that immerses viewers in the nightlife. Freeze frames used to emphasize pivotal moments, dynamic editing, rapid cuts, mirror the chaos and energy of mob life. And if we talk about sound and music, the soundtrack features period specific sounds that encapsulate the era and mood, including Rags to Reach by Tony Bennett, Layla by Derek and the Dominoes, Jimmy Shelter by the Rolling Stone, music is used both didactically within scenes and non-directly uh, to heighten emotional impact. And if we talk about lighting and color palette, the film employs high contrast and saturated colors which accentuate the glamour and violence, often using chiaroscuro lighting for dramatic effect. And we talk about historical and cultural impact. Real life inspiration, the story is based on Henry Hill's real experience with many scenes and characters inspired by actual events and people. The film's authenticity is enhanced by input from mob insider and actual law enforcement, and we talk about influence and legacy. Revolutionized gangster films, its severity really influenced later classics like The Sopranos, The Irishman, and countless other popular plot and scenes. Funny how, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster and a coppershot. We talk about cultural depiction. It shaped the public perception of the mafia, blending myth and reality. And if we talk about controversies and criticism, the film's depiction of violence and crime has been criticized for glamorization, and if we talk about some argue it romanticizes mob life, though Scorsese's intent was to depict its brutality. And if we talk about behind the scene and production facts, let's talk about the screenplay first. Co-written by Martin Scorsese and Nicholas Pileggi. Adapting Pileggi's book Wise Guy, casting Robert De Niro was considered for Henry Hill but declined. Ray Liotta was cast in the role, and we talk about filming. It was shot on location in New York City and New Jersey with authentic venues used to enhance realism. And if we talk about music licensing, secured rights for iconic songs which became integral to the film's mood. And if we talk about editing, the film's editing style, especially the use of freeze frames, was innovative at the time. And if we talk about critical reception and awards, accolades won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and Louis Pesci received a nomination for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Adapted Screenplay. And if we talk about critical acclaim, praised for direction, screenplay, and performance. And if we talk about audience, considered as a cult classic, regularly ranked among the greatest films ever made. If we talk about final reflection and summary, Goodfellas stand as a towering achievement in cinema, an unflinching, exhilarating, and morally complex portrayal of organized crime. It combines masterful direction, compelling performance, and innovative filmmaking techniques to create a vivid and unforgettable portrait of the mafia, seductive yet destructive world, and its influence endures, and its lesson about loyalty, greed, and violence remains relevant, making it a timeless classic that continues to captivate audience decades after its release. And if we talk about more, then let's go for it. And if we talk about Goodfellas, the ultimate in-depth, exhaustive film analysis, facts, and cultural impact. If we talk about introduction, setting the stage, Goodfellas is widely regarded as one of the greatest films ever made, not only in the gangster genre but in cinematic history overall. Directed by Martin Scorsese, the film is a class in storytelling, editing, character development, and visual style. It is based on the true story of Henry Hill, a mobster who ascended through the ranks of the mafia only to eventually turn state's witness and become a target of the violent world he once thrived in. The film, released in 1990s, marked a turning point in how crime stories were told, no longer glamorized and romanticized, but instead raw, gritty, and brutal honesty. It's a film that combines intense violence, dark humor, and profound character study, making it a late masterpiece. If we talk about historical and cultural context, the mafia in America, the film chronicles the real life organized crime scene in New York City, focusing on the Luce's crime family during the 1950s, 1980s. The mafia was a powerful force in American society, involved in racketeering, drug trafficking, extortion, and corruption. Talk about the era depicted. The film spans several decades, capturing the glamorized 1950s and 1960s nightclub scenes, the excess of facilities and 80s, and the chaos that followed. It reflects the changing landscape of organized crime, law enforcement crackdowns, and the eternal conflicts within mafia families. Talk extensive plot breakdown, prologue, and introduction. The film opens with Henry Hill narrating, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. This iconic line immediately sets the tone and exploration of desire, ambition, and the sadistic failure of a criminal lifestyle. The opening scenes introduce us to Henry early fascinating with gangster figures, showing him as a young boy, idolizing local vice life, setting the foundation for the film exploration of longing and identity. If we talk about childhood and early encounters, Henry's childhood in Brooklyn is marked by his fascinating with the monster who frequent his neighborhood. The film depicts him tagging along with neighborhood gangsters witnessing their petty crimes and being drawn into their world. This section establishes the mafia's grip on the community with scenes of local hangouts, small time thieves, and the camaraderie among gang members. Henry's mentor Polly is introduced as a paternal figure, stern but caring, who embodies the mafia tradition values loyalty, respect, and silence. If we talk about Act 2, the rise and the lifestyle, Harry, under Polly's wing, begins to participate in more serious crimes, robberies, hijacking, and drug dealing. The film emphasizes his quick ascent with scenes of lavish parties, nightclub visits, and the trapping of wealth. If you talk about key scenes, the cover shot a groundwork uncut camera movement through the Copacabana nightclub, emphasizing the glamour and stated that the mafia confers drug use and excess. The film doesn't shy away from depicting drug addiction, alcohol, and reckless behavior, which foreshadows Henry's downfall. Talk about the murder of Goodfellas, a pivotal moment where Tom and DeVito, Joy Pesci, legends, a rival in a bar fight, illustrating the violence that lurks beneath the surface of mob camaraderie. If you talk about the turning point, downfall as Henry's wealth and power grew. So, due to his problem, his involvement in drug trafficking introduced shocks, paranoia, and law enforcement scrutiny. The infamous funny house scene depicts Tommy DeVito's volatile temper, a masterful display of Joy Pesci's acting, where Tom intimidates Henry with a threatening monologue revealing the unpredictable violence of mobsters. Henry's drug addiction spirals out of control, leading to reckless behavior, battles, and legal jeopardy. His paranoia and greed culminate in his decision to become an informal, betraying his friend and mafia bosses. The film climax involves Henry testifying against his former associates, leading to arrest, convictions, and his life in witness protection, epilogue, and reflection. The final scenes show Henry living in the witness protection program, a stark contrast to his former life. The narration reflects on the fleeting natures of wealth and respect, emphasizing the emptiness that comes with crime. Talk about character analysis and development. We talk about Henry Hill. We talk about portrayed by Liotta. We talk about character traits, charismatic, ambitious, reckless, conflicted, and we talk about arc from innocent fascination to ruthless criminal, then guilt, reading informant. We talk about narrative voice, the voice of provides insight into his thoughts, motivations, and regrets, creating intimacy with the audience. Jimmy Conway, portrayed by Robert De Niro, trades cool, methodical, pragmatic. Robert role, the experienced, disciplined mobster who values order and loyalty. Arc, he is a calm demeanor mask a deadly seriousness. His character represent the old school mafia mentality. Tommy DeVito, portrayed by Jay Pesky, traits fatality, unpredictable, violent, darkly humorous. Iconic moments, the funny how scene which exemplifies his dangerous unpredictability. Oscar Best Supporting Actor character role embodies the charge and brutality lurking within the mafia. Karen Hill, portrayed by Lauren Bracco, treats loyal, loving, powerful role Henry's wife, who witnessed the chaos but remains loyal, ultimately suffering the emotional toll. Significance highlights the human side of mob life, the personal sacrifice and suffering. Polly, portrayed by Paul Savino, traits by patriarchal authoritative tradition role the mafia boss who embodies both paternal warmth and ruthless discipline of his significance represent the old world mafia values and code of silence. Talk about other notable characters. Believe that his murder signifies the violent consequence of mob dispute and raise children, their innocence contrasts sharply with their father's criminal life. Law enforcement portrayed as resistance but often ineffective, symbolizing the ongoing struggle between organized crime and justice. Talk about themes and symbolism in depth. The glamour versus the reality. The film juxtaposes scenes of nightclub, luxurious cars, and upscale parties against the brutal violence and moral corruption behind the scenes. The use of vibrant colors, lively music, and glamorous setting masks a darker reality. Talk about loyalty, betrayal, and morality. The mafia's code emphasizes loyalty, Omeria, but greed, fear, and personal ambition frequently lead to betrayal. The film explores how these moral codes are tested and broken if we talk about the allure of power and wealth. Mom life promise respect, money, and status, but these come at a cost. The narrative warns that crime selective appeal is ultimately hollow and destruction. And if we talk about cinematic style and techniques, visual style, camera movements, the uncut cover shot is a technical marvel that immerses viewers in the nightclub scene, symbolizing the allure and chaos of mob life. We talk about freeze frames used strategically to emphasize critical movement and add dramatic weight. With lighting and color, high contrast and saturated colors evoke both glamour and meaning. We talk about sound and music. The soundtrack features era-specific hits that evoke the mood and period. Music is used diegetically and non-diegetically to heighten emotional impact. Lila during a violent scene, for examples, if we talk about editing and pacing, sharp, rapid editing reflects the source of mob life. The use of voice-over narration personalizes the story, making it more intimate and reflective, historical, and real-life aspiration. The famous story is based on the non-fiction book by Sky by Nicholas Plaguey, who co-wrote the also co-wrote the screenplay. Many character art scenes are inspired by real-life figures and events with input from law enforcement and mob insiders. Henry Hill himself appears briefly on the film, providing first-hand insights. And if we talk about impact and legacy, critical reception awards won one Oscar. Pesky, best supporting actor with multiple nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director, praised for its direction, performance, and authentic depiction of mob life, listed among the greatest film ever made by numerous critics and institutions. If we talk about cultural impact, the film revolutionized the gangster genre, inspiring TV shows like The Sopranos. Phrases like funny how, as far back as I can remember, and scenes like the copper shop have entered popular culture. It shaped public perception of organized crime more talk about controversy and critics. Some critics argue that glamorized criminal observation its historical accuracy, though it strives for realism. A depiction of violence and drugs has sparked debates about moral responsibility in cinema. Piracy and production details talk about screenplay co-written by Martin Scorsese and Nicholas Pileggi based on Pileggi's book. Casting Liotta was cast after extensive auditions. Robert De Niro declined the role of Henry Hill, choosing to play Jimmy Connell. Talk about filming location, mainly in Brooklyn, New Jersey, and other NYC locations. Music licensing, extensive rights secured for iconic songs which became integral to the film's identity. To innovative techniques, use of freeze frames, long takes, and creative editing to enhance storytelling. If we talk about thematic and, moral reflection, the word Goodfellas is not just a crime history, it's a moral exploration of loyalty, great violence, and regret. It invites viewers to consider the cost of a life of crime, loneliness, fear, betrayal, and inevitable downfall. The film ultimately portrays the mafia as a corrupt, destructive force that offers fleeting riches but permanent scars. And if we talk about final summary and reflection, Goodfellas is a cinematic masterpiece that combines storytelling, visual innovation, and powerful performances to create a visual experience. Its unflinching depiction of mob life, layered characters, and thematic depth make it a timeless classic. It challenges viewers to confront the seductive allure of crime while acknowledging its brutal realities. And if we talk about more, let's and if we talk about Goodfellas, the most exhaustive, complete, and in-depth analysis ever. If we talk about introduction and significance, Goodfellas is not just a film, it's a cinematic phenomenon that transformed the gangster genre, set new standards for reeling and storytelling, and cemented Martin Scorsese's legacy as one of the greatest filmmakers of our time. It's a profound influence extend beyond cinema, not popular culture, redefining how organized crime stories are portrayed. The film's narrative style and themes resonate across generation, offering a visuals unvarnished look into the seductive, violent, and morally complex world of the mafia. It's a film that demands multiple viewing, each revealing the layers of meaning, symbolism, and craftsmanship. If we talk about historical and cultural director, the American Mafia and organized crime. The story is rooted in the real life operation of the Lucas crime family, one of the five families of New York City during the mid 20th century. The Mafia wielded enormous influence over legitimate and illegitimate enterprises including labor unions, construction, gambling, drugs and racketeering. Law enforcement efforts in the 1970s and 1980s intensively targeted these organizations, leading to widespread arrests and indictments. If we talk about era and setting, spanning from the 1950s through the 1980s, the film captured the changing landscape of organized crime, its glamorous excels decline, and eventual downfall. The period is depicted through meticulous detail, fashion, music, slang, and social norms. We talk about socio-political context. The film subtly reflects social issues like corruption, law enforcement corruption, and American dreams dark side, which showcases how the mafia exploited social gaps, offering a sense of community and identity to marginalized groups. With a more detailed plot breakdown and scene-by-scene analysis, opening sequence and voiceover introduction. Henry Hill's voiceover begins with the famous line, "As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be gangster." This statement sets the tone, an expression of fascination, aspiration, and the allure of power. The opening montage introduces viewers to the gritty Brooklyn neighborhood, establishes the environment of crime, community, and serves the narration personalizes the story, inviting viewers into Henry's mind. And we talk about Act 1, childhood and early fascination. The film's first act depicts Henry's childhood, showing him idolizing local gangsters like Billy Watts and others. His admiration is palpable, clothing, swagger, confidence are symbolic of the American dream twisted into crime. Talk about scenes. Young Henry observing mob figures at social gatherings. He first petty crimes such as stealing and shoplifting. The mentorship of Kale embodies tradition, mafia values, respect, silence, and loyalty. This page emphasizes the formative influence of the mafia, shaping Henry's worldview. We talk about Arc to Ascension and the glamorous lifestyle. Henry's transition from a petty criminal to a respected officer unfolds with scenes of wealth, luxury, and camaraderie. There were notable scenes: the Copa Club shot, a groundbreaking uncut shot that takes viewers through the bustling nightclub, emphasizing the glamour and allure of mobile mob life. If we talk about parties and nightlife, portrays of opulent parties, high-end cars, and stylish fashion, highlighting the mafia's presentation of success. Drug use and excess scenes depict drug abuse, alcohol, and reckless behavior, foreshadowing future troubles. The murder of Billy Bats, the escalation of violence, Tommy DeVito's brutal killing in a bar demonstrates the volatile and dangerous nature of mob dispute. If we talk about downward spiral and betrayal, Henry's lifestyle becomes increasingly chaotic with drug trafficking, paranoia, and law enforcement attention. We talk about the funny house scene. Tommy DeVito's infamous monologue illustrating his volatile temper and the unpredictable violence within the Maria, drug addiction and recklessness. Henry's addiction leads to reckless decisions, including paranoia and betrayal. The Lufthansa feast. The film alludes to the real-life famous thief, highlighting greed and internal conflicts. The betrayal and testimony, Henry's decision to cooperate with authorities marks the fine rupture with his criminal past. And if we talk about climatic and closing scenes, as this transition into witness protection is depicted starkly, emphasizing the emptiness of his new life. The narration reflects on the fleeting nature of wealth and respect, emphasizing the cost of a life of crime. And if we talk about character deep dive and psychological profile, and he'll portrayed by Ray Liotta, complexity, charismatic, ambitious, conflicted, psychological traits allowing for acceptance and respect, combined with reckless impulsiveness, development from naive dreamer to hardened criminal, then to remorseful informant, narrative voice. The voice offers insight into his internal conflict, moral struggles, and eventual regret. And we talk about Jimmy's Conway, portrayed by Robert De Niro, traits calm, calculating experience, pragmatic role, the epitome of the disciplined mobster, values order, loyalty, and professionalism. Arc is coolly maniac, mask or deadly seriousness. He embodies the old school mafia code. Video for Tommy DeVito, portrayed by Jay Pesky, traits volatile, impulsive, violent, darkly humorous. We talk about iconic moments, the funny how monologue which showcases his dangerous unpredictability, must and style. Pesky's portrayal combines humor and panic, making him one of the most memorable character in cinema. We talk about Karen Hill, portrayed by Doreen Greco, traits loyal, loving, and talk role Henry's wife, who witnessed the chaos and struggle with her loyalty significance, representing the human toll of mafia life, fear, frustration, and emotional pain. After Polly, portrayed by Paul Savino, patriarchal, authoritative, traditional. If we talk about role, the mafia boss who embodies both federal warmth and ruthless discipline, significance, symbolizes the old world values and unbreakable code of science. And if we talk about the characters, and if we talk about other characters, believers in what exemplifies the lethal consequence of home disputes and reason their innocence contrasts sharply with their father's criminal world, law enforcement, and FBI portrayed as resistance but often ineffective, highlighting the ongoing struggle between organized crime and justice. Let's talk about thematics, symbolical layers, glamours versus reality. The film juxtaposes scene of nightclubs, luxury, and fashion with scene of violence, greed, and decay. This duality underscores the seductive nature of the film lifestyle versus its brutal reality. Talk about loyalty and betrayal. The mafia's internal code emphasizes silence and loyalty, but greed, fear, and personal ambition often lead to betrayal. The illusion of the American dream loves to chase wealth and status, but the film reveals that this pursuit often leads to destruction, tragedy, and moral decay. Talk about violence as a central theme. From fistfight to murders, violence is depicted as both a tool and a consequence, emphasizing its brutality and moral costs. Talk about corruption and moral decay throughout the film. Character the institution decay morally symbolized through lighting, set design, and narrative tone. If we talk about cinematic technique and artistic style, first talk about camera and editing. Uncut copper shot, a merciful long take that immerses viewers in the nightclub scene, emphasizing the allures and serves freeze frames used to punctuate pivotal moments, adding emphasis and stylistic flair. Rapid editing reflects the kinetic pace of mob life, chaos, and violence. We talk about sound and music, period specific hits, example Laila, give me shelter, rags to riches, evoke and evoke era and mood. We talk about music is integrated diegetically and non-diegetically to high and emotional impact. And if we talk about lighting and color palette, high contrast lighting highlights the duality of glamour and danger. So it was the review of this movie. I hope you like it. Goodbye for now. Let's we'll meet on next Goodbye. Thank you for watching.